Hello, I'm Sarah Anne Shockley, and this is the Pain Companion, chapter by chapter. Chapter 13, Sadness and Loss. When we're in severe or chronic pain, our normal life is not available to us in the way it used to be. It isn't the same as going on vacation or moving to another town, both of which we consciously choose as enjoyable breaks from the everyday. Instead, living in pain feels like being taken out of life. Our normal life recedes to a distance at the same time that the feeling world of pain becomes incredibly close, immediate, and demanding. Pain becomes our experience of life. We may still be physically present, but most of our energy and attention is busy elsewhere, trying to attend to pain or keep it at bay or heal our bodies or worry about how it will all work out. We simply aren't available to or involved with everyday life in the same way, and it does not feel like everyday life is available to us either. The time spent in pain can feel like lost time. This is particularly sad when you can't attend or participate in important events, or when you must do so in your aura of pain. Even when you can participate, pain limits your enjoyment and leaves you with a feeling of not having been entirely present. My time in pain has been particularly heartbreaking for me in terms of being a parent. I have been unable to participate and contribute in many of the ways I have wanted to, and I have felt an immense sense of loss. I used to be a world traveler and very active, so I had planned to travel and go backpacking and camping with my son. When I was injured, I was in the process of teaching him to swim, and we'd gotten our bicycles tuned up for some long rides. All that went out the window. In addition to that loss, I was no longer able to work, which meant that I lost not only my ability to support myself financially, but my hopes and dreams for my career. This was also true of my avocations. I had begun a series of watercolor paintings and had some interest from art galleries, but my injury forced me to put that project on the shelf indefinitely. Anyone who experiences pain over time has stories like these. You feel sadness and loss not only for the time and experiences that are eaten up by pain, but also for lost dreams and goals, as if your connection to the future is being consumed by pain as well. Antidotes to sadness and loss. View pain as a landscape you're passing through. Since pain feels all-encompassing while you're experiencing it, I think that's why we describe it as being in pain, it's easy to lose the ability to imagine anything else. It can be really difficult to remember what it feels like to not be in pain. One day I woke up and realized I didn't have a sense of a personal future anymore. I had simply stopped dreaming because it seemed like my life was just going to be an endless stream of days in pain. So I started to think of pain as a landscape that had edges. It had a beginning, therefore it must have an end somewhere. The landscape was nasty, ugly, and burned out, but it was only a landscape, a place I was walking through, not the entire world. I told myself that I would eventually reach other landscapes. I was just passing through this one. And I got this sense came to me when I was feeling so trapped in pain, as I know many of you do. And an image came up into my mind of a memory of a time years before. I used to cross-country ski a great deal, and I used to like to go out by myself. And I loved the silence of the snow and the purity of the snow. And I remember skiing someplace, I think it was near Yosemite in California, and I was going through an area where I got to a place where there had been a forest fire at some point, and the trees were all burned out. And there were stumps, but they weren't stumps like that had been cut. They were stumps that had been burned, so they were jagged, and they were black, charred, not even whole stumps, like charred fragments of trees all around me just completely surrounded by white snow and these dark, jagged bits of burned out trees. And I stood there for a while, just stopped skiing and stood and looked at it and went, wow, this is amazing how intense this landscape is and how it feels like sometimes what it feels like to be human, when you're going through something difficult, that you're in this really intense landscape and everything has been devastated and annihilated. And I stood there for a while just sort of appreciating the strange beauty of this really almost alien landscape. And then I skied on. And that part was really important. Of course, I skied on. I kept going. And I was shown when I was thinking about this, when I was in deep pain, and this image came up of that moment in the burned out landscape. This is like your pain. This is the landscape you're in right now, but you don't have to stay here. It's just a landscape. It's what you're experiencing. It's very real. It's not pretend. It's not like, the pain isn't here and you can just ignore it. No, you're in a really difficult landscape. But it doesn't go on forever. It's not the only landscape you have ever known, and it's not the only landscape you will ever know. And I remembered that, and I remembered how, yes, and then what happened? I kept moving through it. And so I used that as a metaphor. It was really helpful to me to remember this is a difficult landscape I'm in. And the landscape may go on for weeks. It may go on for months. It may go on for years. And yet, if you keep moving through it, and the movement isn't to stop and fight it. That's my main message with pain. Moving through pain isn't stop. You don't stop and battle the trees. You don't fight with them to make them different. They're not going to change. What you do is move through it. Acknowledge it. Yes, this is a really difficult place. I see this, and it's not all of me. It's just something I'm passing through. So I think we get stuck in pain sometimes when we stop to battle the trees, stop to battle the landscape, or we give up and we sit down and say, well, this must be my lot. I guess I'm stuck with this. And we don't move. And I've tried both of those, believe me. I spent years doing both of those. And neither one of them got me out of pain. Either the sort of living with it thing, I'm just going to, just pretend it isn't here, or as best I can, or I'm just going to kind of acquiesce to it and, okay, well, here I am. I just have to live with this. That didn't move me forward. Neither did standing there and boxing with the trees, boxing with pain. So my main message really is in all of what I write is about making a relationship with pain, finding a way to move through it and not denying that it's there, not fighting it, not asking it to go away when it can't right now for some reason, but you're moving through it. You're moving almost in a sense with it, but also through it. So you just imagine you're moving through the landscape, and as you allow that to be part of your metaphor, it allows you to relax. There's something about it that releases something. You realize, okay, this doesn't have to be forever. This isn't the only landscape I've ever known. This isn't the only landscape in my life. I'm moving through it. And you start to look around, and eventually you notice little tiny signs of a little bud over here, maybe a blade of grass over there, something different. And it might be really small at first, but you grab onto those small things, not in terms of stopping, but you notice them for sure. And you grab onto them in terms of the hope they give you. And in terms of, if that can change, anything can change. If that little tiny thing can move, the whole thing can move. I can move through this. So just use this. This is one of the most powerful metaphors I found when I was in pain, to just remember, I'm moving through this. Yes, it looks awful, but it's not unending. I'm moving through it. I'm moving through it. I'm moving through it. Just a landscape. Look for the gold in the ashes. I found it very difficult to deal with the sense of loss I feel due to the amount of time I've spent in pain. I have had to reframe the way I see those years. Instead of representing life lost, they represent a different kind of life. Equally valuable, even if I couldn't yet completely see how. When I went in search of the gold in all the ashes, I realized that my son had learned some valuable life lessons through my painful condition. He learned to think about someone else's well-being other than his own, and not to take life and health for granted. He learned that he was important and his contribution really counted, since I needed his help daily to do basic household tasks. Living in pain can give you valuable insights. You'll be bringing back a greater awareness of what others suffer and greater compassion for others. You can develop a fuller sense of gratitude for life, for all the relationships in your life, and a deeper appreciation for your body. If you decide to delve more fully into the emotional aspects of being in pain, you may find expression for difficult feelings that need to move on. Working through these emotional aspects can allow a greater sense of freedom in life, in all areas of your life, even while you're still in pain. And sometimes when we're working with these deep emotions that come up when we're in physical pain, we're going to touch into and tap into emotions that have been there before the pain, before the physical pain started. And that's important because it's, in a way, it may not be a welcome opportunity, but it is an opportunity to move through old, stuck emotions that have been living with us for a long time. Maybe they're contributing to the pain. Certainly, they're probably contributing to it staying around longer. So take advantage of that. When they come up, just allow them to come up, feel into them, and then release them. And earlier I gave a technique for working with difficult emotions, and I'll put a link down here below this video for that. But there's other things coming up when I do some of the exercises that'll help you move through the emotions as well later on. This next one is so important. Choose new meaning. Finally, when it feels like life in pain is meaningless, I remind myself that it is I who choose the meaning of my life. I can decide that I've wasted or lost the years I've been in pain, or I can choose to see them as years with a different kind of meaning. Through my time spent with pain, I have sometimes begrudgingly learned a great deal about what it is to be a human being and how to find a deeper sense of an overreaching arc and flow in my life and the value of life's natural vicissitudes. This is so important because when we're in pain, we tend to think that life has become meaningless, that we are meaningless, that it's time wasted, it's time lost, and that becomes an incredible burden of sadness and grief. And yes, it's true. When we're in terrible pain, when it's debilitating, we're not able to participate in life in the ways that we used to, in the ways that we probably would prefer. It's absolutely true. On the other hand, if we go all the way to the end of the other end of the spectrum, in a sense, and say, well, then it's completely meaningless, then we're losing even more in that way. So it's really important to decide, okay, life doesn't have the same meaning as it had before I entered this place of great pain, but it has meaning. It has the meaning I create. It has the meaning I make of it. And it has value because I'm still alive. It's still life. So I have to find, what is it in my life that I can appreciate? What is it in this time of pain, this journey through pain, that can teach me? What is it in this time of pain that I can come to value? How can I learn about my own strengths through this? How can I learn about my capacity for compassion and understanding and depth? How can I make the best use of this time? Maybe for some reason it's really important in my life right now, for purposes of my soul or for some other reason, to just be quieter, to slow down. Wouldn't necessarily be the way I would prefer to choose to learn this. And I don't say that people have to be in pain to learn things. Absolutely not. But a lot of times it's a very rich time of gathering wisdom about ourselves and about life and about deeper inner meanings, so that our life on the outside might not have as much as it used to have, but we go inside and we find the deeper inner meaning there. And it's not just a way of sort of forcing it to work. It really is true that there is deep meaning when we go through these intense things, when we go through these challenges in life. There's something about them that allow us to be closer to our inner selves, sometimes closer to God if we believe in God, or spirit, or creator, closer to the essence of life, closer to the essence of who we are. So it's an incredible opportunity to kind of plumb those depths. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like you have the energy to do that. Don't worry about that. Just allow things to be as they are and deepen, and just notice that this is a time of deepening. This is a time of wisdom. This is a time you can cull from some deeper meaning, some deeper connections with yourself. It's almost like that's the only thing you can do to be able to get through this. Summary. Pain is a landscape you're passing through. Look for the gold in the ashes. Choose new meaning.